Hello everyone, welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. Starting with this episode, we will begin our review of the Tensura light novel, Volume 12. In our last episode, we discussed the aftermath of the battle with Granbell. Rimuru, along with Luminous and Leon, exchanged information and prepared for potential upcoming threats. On another front, upon learning about Rimuru's control over the Western nations, the most powerful demon lord, Gi, decided to personally visit the Monster Federation. In this episode, we'll delve into Gi's visit. Let's get started. After exchanging intel with Luminous and Leon, Rimuru and the others planned to leave the venue for some much-needed rest. However, at that moment, Gi arrived at the Monster Federation. Although the receptionist mentioned that Rimuru and his group were in an important meeting, Gi, in a haughty tone, mentioned that since he rarely visited, the least he could do was greet them, even commending the receptionist for noticing his arrival. Despite the Lord of Wisdom sensing no malice from Gi, Rimuru hastily stood up to greet him. Yet, before Rimuru could act, Diablo, with a displeased look, approached the door. On seeing Diablo, Gi promptly greeted him. Ignoring Gi, Diablo curtly asked Gi to go home, and promptly slammed the door shut. Taken by surprise, Rimuru and the others, who were about to step out, stood frozen. Moments later, the door swung open again, with Gi storming in, shouting in anger. Still, Diablo held his ground, asserting that Gi would disrupt their crucial meeting. Stating that the Monster Federation wasn't ready to entertain him either today or the day before, Diablo asked Gi to wait until an official invitation was extended. Diablo firmly blocked the doorway, keeping Gi out. Not just Rimuru, but even Luminous and Leon were shocked and began whispering among themselves. Almost simultaneously, sensing Gi's presence, Benimaru, Soyai, Primordial Yellow Carrera, and Primordial Purple Ultima all burst into the room. Dangerous murmurs of preparing for war filled the room. After Rimuru cleared his throat to quiet the restless subordinates, he decided to formally receive Gi, and the meeting resumed. Leon and Luminous were the first to speak up. The sudden appearance of Carrera and Ultima clearly threw them off. Leon loudly questioned why Primordial Yellow was present, and Luminous inquired if the purple-haired girl was indeed Primordial Purple. As we've mentioned before, Primordial Yellow has been a constant menace to Leon's territory, El Dorado. But Rimuru looked perplexed, trying to figure out who were the mentioned Primordial Yellow and Primordial Purple. He then realized that they must be the demon newcomers Diablo had brought. Rimuru then introduced Carrera and Ultima to everyone, causing another wave of astonishment. Leon's reaction was the most intense. Not only had Rimuru given these dangerous demons bodies, but he'd also named them. Lord of Wisdom then explained that primordials were one of the benchmarks of the demon race, representing the earliest demons in this world. There were 7 primordial demons, distinguished by colors: red, yellow, blue, green, black, white, and purple. 4 of these now served the Monster Federation, and all had been named. These facts explained the extreme reactions from Gi and Leon. Rimuru later expressed that he had no prior knowledge, being unaware of the immense power of the demons he casually summoned. His words left everyone, including the Lord of Wisdom, speechless. Thereafter, Rimuru, along with Dino, Ramiris, and Veldora, were severely reprimanded by Gi. The main issue being that the balance of power in the world had been completely disrupted, making the global situation unpredictable. Nodding in agreement, Rimuru tried to deflect the topic. Gi served as the mediator of this world, and for many years, he had been striving to maintain balance. For instance, to unify humanity, Gi periodically sowed discord, instilling fear in people's hearts. With a common adversary in him, humans refrained from endless power struggles. However, Rimuru's emergence disrupted Gi's plans. Following Granbell's demise, the Rosso family's control over the Western nations collapsed. In Gi's assessment, this situation would inevitably lead the Western nations into civil unrest. That was why Gi dispatched Primordial Green Misery to the council meeting, aiming to remind the assembled leaders of the Demon Lord threat and foster unity among them. As we learned in the previous episode, when Misery launched the assault on the meeting venue, she discovered Primordial White Testarossa was also present. To avoid conflict with Testarossa, misery terminated her attack. Guy glared at Rimuru. From Guy's perspective, without instilling fear in humans to unify them, civil war in the Western countries would be inevitable. The trigger for the current situation was Rimuru, leading Guy to vehemently question Rimuru's intentions. Upon hearing these words, Rimuru was taken aback for a moment, unsure of how to respond. After all, Rimuru had never anticipated that the matter would be tied to the survival of humanity. When he dispatched Testarossa, his genuine intention was merely to forge a friendly relationship with the humans. However, as Rimuru grappled with his dilemma, Diablo rose to speak in his place, providing a detailed explanation to the assembled group. Diablo stated that they, Rimuru's subordinates, simply acted to fulfill Rimuru's ideals. Contrary to Guy's perspective, Diablo believed that using fear to control humans was an uninspiring approach. Even if humans succumb due to fear, it wouldn't harness their full potential. Fear tends to fade over time, and no matter how profound the fear, only hatred remains. Eventually, hatred would transform into loathing. By then, Diablo argued, humans would focus on seeking revenge against those who oppress them, as their limited wisdom prevents them from recognizing the vast power disparity. Guy then interjected, arguing that periodic slaughter was necessary to sustain this fear and prevent the situation Diablo described. Diablo countered, asserting that humans were short-sighted. With each passing generation, pressing matters would become inconsequential. Continuous fear would not be the answer. Instead, an approach different from the Rosso families should be taken, reshaping national relationships based on a new economic paradigm. This would give humans the illusion that they had a choice in shaping their future, making them believe their circumstances were the result of their own making. By controlling the economy and engaging in bloodless warfare, a preordained society ensuring the happiness of many could be established. This would be the way to effectively dominate humans for an extended period. Overseeing this system would be the responsibility of Rimuru, Diablo, and other subordinates. With a stern face, Diablo concluded with these startling revelations, which Rimuru acknowledged. While Rimuru indeed wished for people to lead prosperous lives and for the advancement of cultural industries, he hadn't considered other aspects. Contemplating Diablo's words, Guy understood. Humans who had experienced peace and prosperity would fear losing it. They would be grateful to Rimuru for maintaining peace and actively assist in ensuring global tranquility. This approach would undoubtedly be more effective than ruling through fear. By the time Rimuru collected his thoughts, Guy seemed to have grasped the situation, nodding in agreement. Luminous, Leon, and their subordinates looked at Rimuru with admiration. Rimuru could hardly contradict the views attributed to him. So, with confidence, he agreed with Guy, stating that while the explanation might be exaggerated, he would pursue world peace using the right means. And so, even before Rimuru fully understood his new role, he was acknowledged by the Octagram Demon Lords and granted authority over the Western nations. The second matter Guy brought up concerned the Eastern Empire and Yuki Kagarazaka. Just as in the previous timeline, the Empire had begun military drills with intentions to invade the Jura forest. While the purpose of this war remained unclear, the Empire's might was undeniable, necessitating thorough preparations. Then there was the information on Yuki, the boss of the moderate Harlequin alliance. Yuki was connected to many past incidents, like secret dealings with the Rosso clan, trading with Leon to summon children from another world, and backing Clayman's rise as a demon lord. After a battle with Granbel, where the holy coffin was shattered, Yuki and his associates managed to escape and hadn't been seen since. According to Guy, on his journey, he encountered Yuki and others who were planning to flee to the Eastern Empire. After giving them a brief lesson, Guy, prioritizing his own game, let Yuki go. He intended for Yuki to wreak havoc in the Empire, facilitating Guy's ultimate goal of placing all of humanity under the rule of the Demon Lords. Although the specifics of this game remained unclear, it was evident that Guy was acting with this aim in mind. As previously mentioned, his strategy to plunge the Western nations into fear was also designed to make them more susceptible to the Demon Lord's dominion. Even though Rimuru acted preemptively, since Rimuru himself was a Demon Lord, the outcome still aligned with what Guy had hoped for. After their discussion, Rimuru and his associates decided to prioritize defensive measures while observing Yuki and his group from the shadows. The meeting then moved to its final agenda, Chloe. Guy suddenly turned to Chloe and remarked that, by all appearances, Chloe should have been a hero. To Guy, while he was unaware of the time loop phenomenon, he had some inkling that Chloe awakened as a hero during her confrontation with Cronoa. However, Rimuru and the others had no intention of divulging the details to Guy. After all, in a previous timeline, Guy had killed Cronoa. If Guy were to learn about the time loop here, no one could confidently predict his subsequent actions. Thus, Rimuru, Leon, and Luminous slightly altered the story. It went as follows: Chloe was the individual Leon had always sought. She possessed a unique power within her body that allowed her to seize and seal away the strength of any opponent, regardless of their identity. With the aid of this power, Rimuru managed to secure victory in battle. At the pivotal moment that determined the outcome, Chloe sacrificed herself to seal away Cronoa, thereby acquiring the power of a hero. With the earnest collaboration of the three demon lords, Guy reluctantly accepted this narrative with a mix of skepticism and belief. However, Guy still expressed concerns about leaving someone as powerful as Chloe unchecked. The moment he uttered these words, Leon immediately stood up, creating an atmosphere so tense it felt as if conflict could erupt at any second, especially since Guy had shown no murderous intent from the start. After briefly regaining his composure, Leon issued a few warnings to Guy before retaking his seat. But just as everyone let their guard down, a sudden turn of events left Rimuru feeling as if his heart had stopped cold. A flash of sword light darted by, and Guy, wielding a long sword, aimed a slash at Chloe's neck. The attack was so swift that even Rimuru couldn't intervene, leaving him with a look of sheer despair, bracing for the impending tragedy. However, in the next instant, a sharp clang rang out. Little Chloe had transformed into an adult and deflected Guy's strike. Simultaneously, the two of them greeted each other as if nothing had happened, each clearly holding deep respect for the other's prowess. Guy remarked that very few, besides himself, could wield that skill as Chloe demonstrated. Yet Rimuru couldn't regain his composure because the movement of the two was utterly invisible, even when perception was accelerated 1,000,000 times. Indeed, it wasn't just a blur, it was completely unseeable. Even the Lord of Wisdom noted that Chloe's actions were indiscernible. Rimuru discreetly glanced around, only to notice that the others also looked pale and seemed to be desperately trying to grasp what had just occurred before their eyes. Only Diablo wore an expression of profound shock, as if recalling something. However, ignoring the bewildered crowd, Guy and Chloe once again brandished their blades, their actions resembling a lagging animation, devoid of continuity. Rimuru sensed trouble, especially since he couldn't see anything clearly. Filled with anxiety, he impulsively intervened between Chloe and Guy. This led to both Guy and Chloe simultaneously cautioning him, indicating that they were merely gauging each other and that Rimuru's rash intervention might have inadvertently caused him harm. At the same time, after saying this, Chloe hugged Rimuru and gave him a peck. This action too had that lagging characteristic, rendering Rimuru utterly defenseless. However, thanks to Rimuru's move, both Luminous and Leon reacted, positioning themselves in front of Chloe and fiercely rebuking Guy. Then, as if a realization dawned upon the Lord of Wisdom, she suggested the possibility of the ultimate skill, Lord of Space and Time, a consolidation of the unique skill Time Traveler, which meant Chloe Aubert might possess the power to manipulate time. Acquired upon Chloe's revival, this Lord of Space and Time skill, as per the Lord of Wisdom, might have the capability to halt time, rendering their duel unobservable, resembling missing frames, to outsiders for whom time flowed normally. This meant that, irrespective of one's strength, without accessing this pause-time dimension, they would be ineffective. Realizing this, Rimuru broke into a cold sweat unnoticed. This time-stopping skill was mentioned for the first time in the Tensura book. Following this, the heavily criticized Guy pledged not to harm Chloe again, marking the conclusion of the meeting. Guy's visit set the stage for Rimuru's preparations for the impending conflict with the Eastern Empire. The entirety of Tensura Volume 12 revolved around these pre-war preparations. Detailed explanations will be given in the subsequent episodes. Alright, that's all for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next one.